Here is my library resource page, epiphanieslibrary.webs.com. And for a little bit of mentality, this is specifically a middle school library resource page. The idea is for middle schoolers. Also, it is intended, okay, in a practical sense, it's going to, I'm going to be using it next year. I'm being moved down to teach middle school language arts, and add to that the fact that the district's downsizing and money saving means that we are losing our library media specialist and library access. It looks like our library is going to be shuttered, or at least we're not going to have what we usually had. So I'm going to have to try to provide a certain amount of resources and so on to my 8th grade students for the upcoming year. And so I created this website with the idea that it would be like creating a mini library for my classroom. I've already sort of created the library part of it, but this will help my students access resources for research that we're doing. It will also help my students access and find and look through the various things I'm going to have in the library available to them. Now, first of all, okay, for one of my other classes, I actually created a classroom library catalog that you can see here. And it's got search capabilities. Everything is divided up. I've got fiction offerings as well as, if you scroll down, a whole nonfiction setting. So it's divided up by fiction and nonfiction, and the nonfiction is in groupings depending on the type of nonfiction that it is. So, and it's alphabetized by title based off of that. All right, and I also have the option of doing it, dividing up the books specifically by genre and so on and so forth. But this was one of the first things I did to try to improve keeping track of the books, keeping track of the resources that I was going to have, the print resources specifically, in my classroom, and set up a way for students to check what resources are available online, and to set up or to state where they wanted, what resources they wanted or needed, and I can adjust based off of that. Now going back, okay, so that's my classroom library catalog. I also created an online reference interview form using Google Forms. And if you take a look at that, right, with the idea that it's supposed to help students, okay, for example, if they go online when we're not in class or off of class time, they can do their requests and so on if I can't help them directly or in person. So I can find out what their needs are and be able to adjust for that. So, hello, you need help, but it is after hours, I am available. However, I want to be sure and get you the help you need as soon as I am available. Please fill out this form to help expedite the process. So, first of all, students have to leave their email address. And, okay, I go through the type of help. Are you looking for a book? Do you need help with a research project? Are you struggling with reading? You need some supports. Are you having difficulty navigating the shelves, okay, to find a specific book or resource? Is the resource you're looking for does not seem to be here, was borrowed by someone else? Or were you looking for something that is not in the library's collection, and how could I get it? All right, so coming down to finding out what the need is, if they're looking for something, if they know what they're looking for, if they don't. Now, if you choose the first option, what are some of your interests, and do you have genre preference, or what are the names of some of the books you've previously enjoyed? If you choose the second option, what's your research topic? If you chose the fourth, fifth, or sixth options, what is the book or resource that you're looking for? And then you would hit submit. Via the way this is set up, that it would send me an email, and it will also send a receipt email to them saying that this got sent to me, and that it would be able to be they would have a record that it got sent, and I would also have it with all of their questions and so on in the forums section, and I can access it from there. Since we are no longer going to have an in-school library, or at least a limited in-school library, I had to find ways of offering options, okay, or expanding the resources, okay, that we would have available. Now, we are a magnet school in Hartford. As such, the school systems, we have a number of suburban schools that would have maybe local libraries, plus we've got the Hartford Public Library system that is also available. For a number of the suburban systems in the Greater Hartford District, they're part of something called Library Connection Inc. And through Library Directory, if you go there, you're able, it has the list of all the libraries that are members of this, and if you click on any of the names, okay, you are able to go directly to their card catalog and be able to search for things that might be in your neighborhood library. But also one of the other things is, because these are all members of this system, you would be able to do interlibrary loan from any of the other libraries within this system as well. So all you have to have is a library card. You'd be able to arrange online to have, if they, let's say it is in Avon, they find out that the resource you want is in Avon, at the Avon Public Library, but you are in Plainville. You'd be able to put in your request, and within a week it would be sent to your public library to get to it. So this would enable students in most of the suburban towns, okay, in the Greater Hartford area, to have access through the entire library system in their neighborhood libraries. The Hartford Public the Hartford Public Library does have a cooperative agreement with the libraries and the schools. I don't know how this is going to affect things. I'm going to look into it, but the possibility is that students would be able to borrow books through the school via the Hartford Public Library system, and I'd probably end up having to act as a liaison in this case, but it would be under the name of the student, but they'd be able to send the resource to the school if the student found it within the Hartford Public Library system. There's about, I want to say, 5 libraries specifically in the city of Hartford that are all interconnected in this system. So, Now, I also have a library recommendation blog, okay, which I created using WordPress, okay, and it's a specific blog so that I have various recommendations. I don't have as many as I'd like yet, all right, but okay, the focus are on middle grade books, okay, from a variety. I've got one graphic novel on here, I've got another short novel, I've got a dystopian novel, and I've got a more modern novel, but that's more geared for girls, and what I would probably say Ghost, which is more geared for boys. I'm trying to keep it diverse, so I'm going through trying to find diverse voices and everything else in the books and be able to recommend based on that. In the recommendations, okay, I always include a picture of the book, okay, I give a basic summary of the book, I talk about what the good points are, who might be interested in reading it. I also, if I can find relevant videos, like specifically of the author talking about the book or doing an interview, I try to include links to it so that students can get that. In these cases, the links were specifically to when they had an interview on pbs.com. So that was public broadcasting station, which means it's a free resource. So also very good. Now, so this is the basic library catalog homepage part. Okay, and so I included the catalog access, the reference interview form, and my recommendation blog specifically for books for enjoyment. Now, the section about research. Okay, we got the next heading. Okay, the research format that we focus on in our school, or at least I'm focusing on, and we're trying to find out how we're going to streamline it so that everybody's on the same page, but so we're still hashing that out. But thus far, I'm using the Odell research format. Okay, and in the Odell research format, the purpose behind the research of the classroom is for students to explore a topic and deepen understanding. Students are expected to build skills in developing evidence-based claims, organizing and synthesizing their claims for the purpose of writing about a topic, and building connections between ideas. Okay, and I include links to Engage New York, which also utilizes the Odell method, but they have a bunch of resources, including unit plans, topic repositories, handouts, checklists, tools, and various things that they do to apply and show students how to better utilize it. And they have these resources for most grades, but I am focusing on grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8. They're various for the focal thing. I also talk about the Digo note-taking for research and classroom use. Digo is an app that specifically helps create digital annotations on websites so that students, and one of the benefits is that if you're doing it digitally for research that you're doing online, rather than writing it on note cards or on a handout, which you could lose, it's saved within the app system, and you can also share it. But also they have options, okay, for creating outlines off of connecting to the places that you are creating it. It saves a copy of your website and all the highlighting and everything else you do, and you're able to put notes in and add to it, and then also create an outline to help prepare yourself. And the nice thing about Digo is that there is a teacher's plan, okay, to create a free account so that teachers can utilize it in their classrooms, not just for research, but help share articles with students and use it interactively that way. Another thing about research is looking at reliable sources, and we specifically in our school system use the CRAP test to follow that. So we've got CRAP test information, action video, worksheets, okay, talking about how do you know if a web page is reliable. Also, we have citation resources, the MLA Style Center. We focus mainly in the middle school on MLA style citation, but I also included OWL Purdue, which includes APA citation basics. I also pointed out Citation Machine, which is a citation builder program, but I always put a disclaimer: students can use Citation Machine to help format source citations for bibliographies, but you cannot blindly take whatever the app spits out. The app uses an algorithm to find resource information on websites, and it can miss things because not all web pages are the same. So I try to point that out, and I also illustrate that when I do go through that with students. Next, digital citizen and search engines. Okay, one of the things that is a focus is trying to build good digital citizenship, okay, particularly when you're having to search and utilize various things. In particular, a curriculum that I have found that works really well from Common Sense Media, and I have actually utilized it with the 9th grade in what I've done previously, but they have excellent 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade digital citizenship curriculum. The 8th grade one I know has one of the resources is a game that helps to apply the learning and so on, and is very good, and it's attractive to students. We also have the educational search engines. We bring up the Boolean operator info sheet, okay, to talk about how to do the various types of searching, but without that type of thing. The search engines that I offer on there is Google Scholar, of course, but I also have come across something called iSeek, RefSeek, and there's also ERIC, which ERIC tends to work better for older students. Okay, so it may not be 100% perfect for middle school, but for some advanced 8th graders, it might be helpful, particularly as a transition into 9th grade and 10th grade research. But the Google Scholar, iSeek Education, and RefSeek are all pretty good and easy to navigate, particularly for middle school students. Okay. Now, I also have databases and free resources online. Particularly free resources in my system are very important right now because we are having a budget crunch and we can't afford a lot, and especially with no library to speak of, we don't have access to a lot of things. The main database that it gets used by our system, and we have been teaching our students how to use it, is researchatconnecticut.org. And there's specifically a section for helping middle schoolers, so I have the direct link into the middle school section. And so it talks specifically for resources when you're searching for middle school, so that it goes directly there rather than sending them to the main homepage and having them try to jump to it themselves. But I also have a bunch of other resources, information, for example, Ancient History Encyclopedia, Crash Course Kids and the Crash Course video sites, Guggenheim Collection Online, which is from the Guggenheim Museum, LibriVox, which are MP3s of public domain audiobooks, some of which is classical literature that you might be able to use, including poetry and short stories, Louvre Museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art, the online etymology dictionary, which not only includes dictionary definitions, but also gives the historical background and evolution of words. How did they change over time? When did they change? That type of thing. NASA Online, NASA Virtual Tours, particularly my school, the magnet theme is sports and sciences, okay? And so any science that we can include, okay, is usually very good and helpful with our magnet theme. National Geographic, National Museum of Women's History, PBS Learning Media. I've discovered this relatively recently. It's an excellent learning and teaching resource, and it is Google Classroom compatible with learning resources, quizzes, documentaries. And you're able, if you have a Google Classroom, as a teacher, you can you can connect with it, and you'd be able to upload and set it up so that students can use it as part of assignment or whatever that they're doing in their Google Classroom pieces. We've got the Smithsonian, TED Ed, which if you're familiar with TED Talks, TED Ed is specifically for students, okay, including information on a variety of topics with videos. Wyville Online Community, and You Are Here. I found this one, and this is a bit unusual. We start looking in 8th grade. We used to have a business program looking at advertising and everything else. But this is created by the Federal Trade Commission, by the government. It's an online game to help students develop good consumer skills and understanding and dealing with businesses and advertising. So it's actually a very helpful thing, I think, as well. And announcements. Since we did talk about announcements, I did include one thing called where there's the announcements section, which includes what upcoming things like related materials that might be relevant for holidays or so on. For example, with the upcoming school year, one of the first things we deal with is the 9/11 observance. And in the interest of supporting staff and students with relevant resources and preparation, I have felt that we don't necessarily treat it very well or know how to address it properly, especially now that the kids that we're teaching weren't even alive on a certain level when 9/11 happened. So they don't, it's history to them. They don't understand or have the emotional connection that some of us teachers do. So it's important to include it. And so I created this for another class, but I'm planning on doing it and offering it to my coworkers and teachers to try to help them. So, but it includes digital media, print resources, and links to a variety of things online that help and would be good ways to just sort of round out and prepare students for the 9/11 observance rather than just assume that they understand it and treat it with a certain amount of depth. So that is my library resource page.